I am so keen to see Joe Rogan and Adam Conover debate about alpha males and beta males. This is peak YouTube right here, man. Say what you want. This is peak fucking YouTube.
People got really mad about. This is weirdly the one we got the biggest reaction to. We did one on alpha males. We did an episode about dating. And we did one on how the idea of the alpha male doesn't exist in humans. Like if you talk to any anthropologist, any biologist, any sociologist, right, and be like, are humans organized in a social relationship where there's alphas and betas? They'll be like, no, what are you talking about? This is an unscientific idea.
According to sociology, there is no such thing as alphas or betas. That's a fact. Now, sociological theories and even scientific theories for that matter get replaced all the time. So that's just something to keep in mind. But right now, as things stand, it's not seen as real. If it's a theory that came from wolves, and then later if it's deemed incorrect, as per my knowledge.
It's an overly simplistic way of looking at human relationships. And I thought that was a pretty simple, straightforward thing. I was like, this is just a bit of pseudoscience that you hear people tossing out.
Athletic, confident male is always going to be an athletic, confident male, and an introverted, anxious male who has problems with social anxiety is going to be the same.
That's not who the person is. Social anxiety is not something that is inbuilt in a person. It's something that happens as a result of some events. So no, that's not who the person is. You can create a dichotomy if you really want to, but that's not to say that people on either side of that dichotomy are there permanently. That's just who they are.
So when we're talking about alphas, right? In animals, what is that? It's a social hierarchy, right?
In animals.
Yeah.
So let's take away that word. I mean, what people are using to describe when they're saying alphas and betas, they're saying like confident, strong, secure people and people that are anxious and not confident.
So if you're trying to say, hey, like it's good to be confident, it's not so great to be anxious. Like that's fine, right? But when people talk about alpha males and beta males, right, they're specifically bringing in the language of like evolution, of biology, of zoology, of evolutionary psychology, you know. And they'll start saying stuff like, well, there's alphas and there's betas, and women are hardwired to be attracted to the alpha, you know, because that's what it's like in nature. Like they'll be using that language, right? And so what we're pointing out is that's not scientific, right?
It's not scientific, but it is true that women are hardwired to be attracted to confident, athletic men.
I don't know if I agree with that. But
really?
Yeah.
Men universally are attracted to a certain shape of bodies. There's men that are attracted to different ones, and
I don't think men are universally attracted to the same body.
People vary, but that hourglass shape has been throughout time.
Actually, I think if you go back a few decades, the zero figure was considered more attractive than the hourglass figure. Both of them were considered to be the most attractive. Right now, I think hourglass is at the top, but I think there was a time when, let's say, Cindy Crawford was in her prime. I think zero figure was considered to be the best. With that said, look, there are different body types and stuff, but you have to be fit and healthy. Some people might like zero figure, some people might like hourglass or whatever types of bodies there are for men and women. But that's just preference. You cannot excuse that for being unhealthy.
That we tell each other that men are attracted to, right? That's what we're told from an early age. To this is the sort of women that men are attracted to, and so a lot of men end up adopting that.
But if you ask girls, like, what are you into, and you say, are you into tall, muscular, confident men who are also nice to you? Jesus Christ, it's going to be off the charts. It's going to be like most of them.
I'm really not sure that's the case.
Really?
Yeah, I think that is the case. Obviously, that's the case. Now, there are exceptions. There are more factors that come into play. But superficially, on surface, that is the case, man. Of course.
You had like a survey of women. And if the men were equally kind and equally intelligent and friendly, you don't think that more women would be sexually attracted to these tall, handsome men with great bodies?
Like, certainly athleticism, right?
There is no secret behind the fact that some people are more attractive than others. But this is the thing, right? Attractiveness is only one aspect of life. It's possible for a guy to be more attractive than a second guy, but the second guy is more athletic than the first guy. But the first guy is still more attractive because he just has a better jawline, maybe. Maybe he's taller. So it's a lot more complex than what Joe Rogan is trying to fucking say. Secondly, I don't know what the other guy's trying to talk about here. I don't know what his argument really is. Things are a lot more complex, and attractiveness is one aspect of life. Athleticism very, very close to attractiveness, but still different is another aspect of life. How good you are at your work, whatever you do. That's another aspect of life. The type of person you are. That's another aspect of life, motherfucks. Most people are good at some aspects of life and not good at other aspects of life. That's just how things are. Now, there are very few who are good at all aspects of life, but that doesn't mean that they don't have any flaws. Everyone has flaws. The problem with alphas and betas is that it simplifies something so complex, and it's widely used by a bunch of idiots who have no idea about anything to feel superior.
And what we're specifically pushing back against in that segment is like the really sort of unscientific,
use of alpha and beta.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's like, you've got people, just on internet forums, like sort of doing amateur pseudoscience, right? Saying like, this is how the relationships between men and women are like designed evolutionarily. And we were just pointing out on a very, very simple level, like the alpha and beta social hierarchy theory, right?
All he had to say here is that science is never defined attractive guys as alphas and unattractive guys as betas. So it is pseudoscience, obviously, but all he had to say is that yes, it's true, some people are more attractive than others, because you can then use the same argument for women. Attractive women are alpha females and fucking unattractive women are beta females. You can use the same argument. How is that any different? But that's not gonna happen because these terms are mostly used in social media for profit.
That like humans are organized in a social hierarchy and alphas are above betas. Not true.
I agree with that. Just because someone's more attractive doesn't mean that they're higher in some hierarchy. I'll give you an example. There is a guy who's not very attractive, but he studied hard and he became a doctor. And then there is another guy who's attractive, but he's, let's say, working in some average job. I don't know what the fuck. Anything. Doesn't matter. Maybe he's working at some bank in some fucking normal ass position. Good for him, but he's not on the same level as the doctor. But he's still better looking than the doctor. So who's higher here in the hierarchy?
The high school football quarterback, right? Versus the high school football nerd, right? Well, take those two people and then put them in a different situation, right? If those two people are like in gym class together, right? Of course, the high school quarterback is like on the top of that social interaction, right? Looking at the sort of, classic Wolfpack model, they're the one who's sort of running the show, right? And the other guy's like hanging out in the bleachers, talking to his friends, right? Or talking to nobody because he's a beta in that situation, right? If you then take that kid and then you send that kid to like nationals, right, or whatever, and that kid, take the quarterback character, and he's suddenly like, from the little podunk town, right? He's not from the big school. He's like way down on the totem pole, right? That person is no longer going to be in that high social hierarchy, right? And if you take that nerd and you put that, take that kid, maybe he's the dungeon master of his, Dungeons and Dragons group, right? That kid is going to be the alpha in that situation, right? That's how humans work.
He gave an example here about a high school quarterback and a guy who plays Dungeons and Dragons. That's the shittiest, hands down, the shittiest example I've ever seen. I'll tell you why. Because attraction matters. You want people of whichever gender you're interested in to be attracted to you. No one is fucking attracted to a person who plays Dungeons and Dragons. Or should I say, attracted to a person because they play Dungeons or Dragons. A better example here would be a high school quarterback and the lead guitarist of some band. Now, if you get the lead guitarist in the fucking football field, he's not gonna do shit. But if you get the high school quarterback on the fucking stage for a music show, that quarterback's not gonna do shit. Now, women can be attracted to the quarterback or to the musician. It doesn't matter. They're both doing good in their fields. The idea is this. You can choose your field. As long as it's productive, you can be attractive.
Guys, in dating, right, in life, like this is not a real concept. If you want to say, I'm going to be confident tomorrow, I'm not going to tell you that's not going to help you out, I am a little bit reticent to make like a broad conclusion about evolutionary psychology, right? But I can tell you, again, go talk to any anthropologist, any biologist, any, sociologist. Is there such a thing as alpha males in humans?
In the strictest scientific sense of the word,
yeah, exactly.
No, I think they're looking at it in terms of like winners and losers, pushovers and people who get the job done. Confident people versus people who are not confident. But I think you're correct, and I think obviously humans operate on a giant spectrum. And if you start going around saying alpha and beta, and the idea that all alphas are the same or all betas are the same, it's just as ridiculous as the idea of saying all Democrats are the same or all Republicans. It becomes an ideology.
He kind of said something very similar to what I just said. The spectrum of being human is much larger than just two terms. You can't sum up humans in two terms, whatever those two terms might be. It just becomes us versus them in a way. Now, people are so mad at this guy, Adam Conover. He's literally wearing a B. Adam Conover just convinced me there are definitely alphas and betas. They didn't even watch the entire video, because if they did, they'll realize that their idol Joe Rogan kind of agreed with him. Scientifically, that's not true. Now, that doesn't mean that some guys are no more attractive than other guys, but that's not how you define them. He's just mad his wife's boyfriend won't let him use the Xbox. In my opinion, this is American culture at its finest. Look at all these people. Look at all these people, man. This is American culture in a nutshell.